And welcome back to Career Build Series. This is episode number 45. And so we're back where we actually left off in the Career Build Series save. So in the Career Build Series save, we just finished emptying the oil at the refinery island. One of the issues that I don't think the devs did really all that well with this update was they do something called surge pricing, which makes a lot of sense and is somewhat relevant to today's life, where we have organizations like OPEC and the oil cartels who will reduce production to keep prices up, or you'll get a glut of oil in the market and the prices go down. And so they put in surge price. And essentially, what's going on here is as you sell oil, as more oil gets put in the market, the price goes down. Makes sense. Supply goes up, demand stays stagnant, price drops. Pretty simple. The issue that a lot of people are having, I've seen a lot of complaints recently about this, and I think the devs should hopefully I think the devs should fix this, let's put it that way. Is so for example, when I started selling this crude oil here at the oil gantry, it was something like $5 a liter. And by the time I finished, it was down to $1.57. Now, that was a considerable amount of oil, but it wasn't a huge quantity of oil. And so what I think they need to do is I think they need to move a decimal place. I think, you should make it something, I don't know exactly what would be ideal, but for every 100,000 liters of oil, reduce the price by a certain percentage, or for every liter you put on, you get 1/100th of a percentage going to, a reduction in price or something. And I think they could make it more reasonable. So if you sell an entire tanker's worth, sure, it's going to go down, but it's not going to go down by like $4, because that made it completely useless, or not useless, but my projected profit was somewhere like 240,000, and we didn't get all that much money because at the end we were selling the oil here for $1.58. And then, of course, I think you need a bleed off. And as you can see, the prices are going back up very slowly. We have 3/100ths of a going up here. As you can see, it's climbing slowly. And so as that oil is being used and processed and sold, theoretically, it's starting to go away. The issue is I think they just need to change decimal place. It's a little bit extreme, especially seeing that, a big part of this update is being able to, move oil. And if you make it so that it is completely unprofitable, or it's completely, it's not as profitable as it probably should be, I think you're going to get a lot of people who don't want to utilize the mechanics of the new update, and that's a problem. If they just came out with a cool update, I think it's a great update. And if you make it so that people don't want to use it, that's kind of defeats the whole purpose of it. So I think they just need to move a decimal place. I think some people have been making too big of a deal of it. I think it's something that they could easily change. But I think it's good that people are voicing their concerns with that it is a problem that we essentially, you go to move a big tanker of oil and the price drops so much that all it's really doing is adding grind, adding it's making things take a lot longer now to get done because, theoretically, if you want to get a good price for oil, you're going to have to go there, sell for, say, 10 minutes, shut it off, let the price recuperate, and then sell it again. And so all it really is, I think, is a decimal place issue. Move the decimal place. Maybe the surge pricing is 1/100th of the extreme nature that it is currently, because it is too extreme. It really is, and it drops the price so precipitously that, you have issues. Now, I could see maybe why they wanted to do something like this. For example, they know that a lot of people are going to go sell 100, liters of jet fuel out of their helicopter as their method of early game selling. Well, I guess, and so they kind of want to have them also see some sort of restriction. That's such a minimal amount of sale, I don't think it's worth doing. I think the best thing to do is change the decimal place so that, you can go put out, for every, 100,000 liters you put on the market, it goes down $1. If it started out at $5.78 and I put on 100,000 liters, it's down now to $4.78. And so if I were to use the T800, sure, it might go down to $1 something, but I put an entire huge tanker that I might do that run once a month at most. And so I think that would make it a little bit better. But again, I think it's a small, and I will highlight small balancing issue that's causing a large issue. And so, I think it's a pretty easy fix. So I will, instead of just yelling in the ether and just complaining, I will put in a feature request and link it in the description of the video. If you want to go there and start, if you agree that the surge pricing, well, I think is a good idea, is not perfectly implemented and could be done better, I think that will be helpful for the game. And so I will time-lapse you guys out, and I'll get back to you when we get to the dock. So currently we're just leaving the refinery here, and we're going down here. I have where we are turned on just so you guys can see it. And I also did some more testing on the refining. Refining was an issue with my rig. The volume that I had in my fractional distillation tower was too great. It was taking what I would consider too long for me to heat it up. I've solved that. I'll show you what I came up with a solution. Now, literally, the oil heats up in a matter of, a minute at most. And so this is going to streamline our procedure, because it was taking me like sometimes an hour to heat up oil and to produce anything. And then the coal oil was coming in and slowing the whole process down. So a little bit weird how they implemented that. I think they could increase the cooling so you could have a more realistic system. Again, we have to kind of take realism with a grain of salt here. Things are going to be different. This is not our universe. This is the universe of Stormworks. And so in the universe of Stormworks, thermodynamics and the ability for a liquid to hold heat is greatly reduced. And so we have to work with that. And so by having a smaller volume of liquid, which I went from, I think, 4,600 liters down to 2,700 liters, it completely changed. It made it much easier to cool, or much easier to change the temperature of the oil. Therefore, I could start fractioning a little bit sooner. So I will get back to you guys when we get to the dock. All right, we are arriving here at the FJ Warner dock. So let's go ahead and shut off the autopilot. Get ourselves put into the docks here. And we'll put all this away. So it's been a while. Next thing we'll do is we'll just teleport over there. I'll launch the new rig. Show you guys what I've done on that. Make it much more efficient for fractioning, essentially heating the oil up. The oil was taking too long, so essentially just reduce the quantity of oil in the fractioning tower itself, and that really sped up how much time it takes to heat it. And so that's going to be important. The battery's not charging all that well here. It's not going to matter, but click on the harbor gen and get those batteries back up. But good to get back out in the tugboat. Kind of feeling that. Had some ideas on a bunch of new vehicles, stuff like that. Trying to diversify gameplay a little bit. I would like to... One thing I was thinking was a larger seaplane that's amphibious, something like the size of... I really like the Barrier B12, kind of maybe inspired on that. That's going to be a longer build project. So kind of just playing around, seeing what I like at the moment. I'm just very much playing it by ear. What I feel like playing. It's the way I do my videos. I very much, I try to enjoy it, and I think that really comes across with quality. As if I'm enjoying it, I think it makes the video more enjoyable. If it's a slog or I'm doing something I don't want to do, then it's not really enjoyable. And it's one thing I've done is I've kind of gone more towards my own gameplay lately, and that's because I want to be enjoying the game as well. So other things that where I'm not necessarily doing my own little missions, takes away from that a little bit. So, all right, so let's grab these back in the workbench. I'm not gonna be too precious with them. I'm just gonna jump around and teleport and everything. But so we're bringing all these back, and I need to grab the tugboat, and we'll see where we're at money-wise. Now, if you remember back, I took a loan to be able to spawn all this stuff because the rig was expensive. Oh, I broke some leg there. And the tugboat's reasonably expensive, and so let's see where we're at. So we have 193,000. That's not a ton, seeing that we took a... Did I pay back the loan? I can't remember. I don't think I paid back the loan. So I need to pay back the loan as well, so that's quite a bit there. Let's go ahead to the oil platform. All right, so here we are at the rig. See, the rig's pumping. Oh, I lost the rod. Okay, that's fine. Something screwed up and the rods disappeared. So let's go ahead and get that back in. I have to launch the new one anyway. I'll show you in the editor here the new fractioning tower. So if we grab this one here, and so, you know, all of the heating system was having to heat all of this oil, and that was, of course, a little excessive. And so it was taking a very long time, and it was really struggling to keep all of that oil hot. And so what I have now is the oil is going to come straight from the oil tank up through this electric heater. It's going to preheat it. Now, you'll notice I have a one wide channel. This is where the oil goes in initially until it gets up to the actual fractioning sections. And that cuts down the quantity and makes it a lot quicker. But fortunately, we're going to have to reinstall the rods here, which isn't the end of the world, but it's not great. All right. We actually lost a little money there, which whatever. I did put some new components on there, so that's not the end of the world. All right, so let's quickly get this back up and running. Not too difficult because I just have to put all the rods in. It's not, you know, it's not like I have to re-drill or anything. So. You know, I'm not overly big on automation, as you probably know. And, you know, the crane system, could it be convenient to have it more automated? Sure, but, you know, the amount of time you're actually doing, the actual time you're actually doing the drilling is pretty minimal. You know, in this case, some of the wells are, you know, to my understanding, much deeper, but, you know, for example, this one's only 60-ish meters. That's pretty quick, you know. You can be under there, and you can get that in there in 20 minutes. I think was what I kind of figured out was how long it would take me to do it. So, 20 minutes you could be have the hole drilled, and so, you know, part of I think when people get bored is if you're not engaged, if you're not actually doing a lot of the stuff yourself, it's easy to get bored. And so for me, I like to stay engaged by doing a lot of it myself. And so that really keeps me involved in it. It's, you know, like having too much automation on autopilots and everything else. Like certain applications, like you saw with the tugboat there, it was helpful because I could go AFK. You know, but sitting there isn't very engaging. Part of it is, you know, when you're on the open ocean, you're not having to steer around obstacles. You're not having to do these types of things. That's why, you know, driving, for example, you know, my experience driving a truck is it's more engaging. You don't get bored as much. Where like when I was flying commercially, you know, you would put on the autopilot and you'd just sit there for hours on end and do very little, you know, and so it was, you know, it got boring. And so that a little bit of engagement where you're actually operating the vehicle and you feel like you're operating it is helpful. And, you know, I'm currently working on the my air race track there and my air race plane. And so there are a bunch of different types of air racing. And so what I wanted to do to start with was kind of like a stock type, kind of like stock cars, where the planes are all the same and they all have the same performance. And that way it's more the pilot's choices that will matter if they're going to win or not. Pilot makes mistakes, the line the pilot chooses to take, stuff like that. And there are other types of racing which I find to be less engaging. For example, with this one, the speeds are pretty low, and in order to keep you interested while the speeds are low, one of the ways you do that is you put a lot of turns in there. So it's like, big super ovals in NASCAR, for example, are pretty boring because, it's just, and they've struggled with this where they've done a bunch of rule changes to try to get the speed slow down or to try to keep the pack together, because that's what's engaging for people, is watching them in close proximity and stuff like that, where if everybody's spread out and they're just going super fast, it's pretty boring. And so like you look at different types of air racing, Red Bull being more, I think, dynamic. They're shorter runs, the speeds aren't massive, but they're having to make a lot of turns, and that's really keeps people engaged, where other methods of racing are not as engaging. And so that's kind of why I chose that for the air race. I did Reno style, did in and out, where you have to go on one side of the pylon, and then you alternate, you go on the other side of the pylon, and that keeps you much more engaged. If you were just doing a big oval, it was not as engaging, it was not as fun, and because you're just like doing one big turn the whole time, and it's like whoop-de-doo on board, where if you have to like make each turn count, and that's how you get an opportunity to pass somebody, and that's what gets exciting with races, the ability to pass people and making choices that are going to, allow you to win. All right. And so this should heat up really quickly now from the testing I did, and that is beneficial. That's the kind of thing that I'm not too worried about this being overly quick heating up, and the reason is we still have a small quantity of oil that can be processed at a time. We still have to put it on a truck, then we have to move it out to a barge. So we have a bunch of steps to actually get it to market. And so because of that, all those steps to get it to market, this can actually be reasonably quick, and that's, it's not like it's taken away from things or making it unbalanced or, making it so that we can make money too quickly. I think we probably need one more pipe after this, I think, so. I think we have one spare pipe on this one. Alright, and so this should be the last pipe. It's a little bit obnoxious having to do this. It happens with the saves. For example, if you don't have any of your tables, if you don't have it connected to your table, the pipe will connect to the drill head, and that will keep it in the world. And if it's attached to the table, that will cause it to disappear. So, did I accidentally? I did. Okay. I accidentally, I think. Yeah, I accidentally. I dropped the. Oh crap! How did I drop that? Okay, I'm really annoyed now. That sucks. Nope, it's right there. Okay. How am I gonna get this pipe back? So I dropped the pipe in the hole, which is not good. I forgot to connect it. All right, first disconnect this. Let's try to get this down there. I doubt I can connect that. That's frustrating, man. I think I just screwed myself up here with having to put all these pipes back in again. Because I screwed up hitting one button. And I pushed the rod down. Let's see. I doubt we can pump jack this right now. That's pretty sad. Let's see. Nope, it's working. Okay, good, it's working. So luckily, it stopped working. It's going again. Yeah, this is screwed up. Yeah, what happened was I didn't connect the last section, and now we have issues. So I have a save. I'm gonna roll it back. I'll catch it back up with you guys when it gets there. All right, so I actually reloaded this, put it right back where it needed to be. So let me just make sure I have the right rig. I don't. All right, so I should be able to fix this now. So we have the pipe at the right distance. Let's make sure I do it right now. Table clamp off, swivel clamp off, swivel down off. Now let's load in the new one, and this should hopefully work. All right, so now the rod's back. So that is now back. So reloading that in actually worked to get the pipe back. So we're all right. All right, table clamp, swivel down. I just need to make sure I disconnect the pipe from the table every time. All right, we should be able to pump jack this in. So that was actually all right. And so this is the new fracturing tower. Oil comes through here, so let's turn that on. It goes up through this electric furnace, which is turning on there. It's going to pump in here. As you can see, the temperature is going to start going up. Cycle this. Do I need to turn this on? I'm trying to see if I can get rid of the diesel. I'm going to see if I can get rid of the diesel. If I can, I will. You know, I've been trying to get around the fact that we have infinite electricity at these bases. I usually like to RP it, but it's just turned into more of a pain trying to RP that. So if it's going to be that much of a pain, I won't worry about it. But we're heating up nicely now. Let's see. I'm going to try doing it. Why is this not filling very fast? Oh, okay, because cycling through. That's fine. All right, so I'm going to turn the diesel on. We have it anyways. I might as well. And so it comes through here, it cycles through the diesel furnace, through this electric back in. This is a preheater. It preheats the cold oil as it goes in. So that's a preheating stage. And as you can see, we're already close to 300 degrees right now. And so once this gets up to the level of the first fractioning port, we'll be able to start taking it. So like, see, we're already at 300 degrees now, so not necessarily the most realistic thing, but it makes sense. Just, the game has a limitation on heating that volume. It just takes a while. So this won't produce a ton of diesel until it actually gets up to the port. So, but this will make it so that it gets the port quicker. It's just essentially getting the area that can hold oil is greatly minimized now. As you can see, it's down in there. Let me get out of this before I glitch and cause problems. All right. And so that's going to, as you can see, we're up over 300 degrees already. Don't have a ton in there, but as that builds, we'll start getting diesel out and jet fuel out. And so, you know, that will get us set up. What I'll do is I'll just fraction a little bit here, and we'll have that stored in the base. And then when I feel like doing another run, we can do another run, which will be good. So I teleported myself over to FJ Warner Dock, and I'm going to launch the Mack Pinnacle 18 speed with a couple trailers, and we're going to actually move the jet fuel and the diesel over to FJ Warner and put it in the dock. If you remember, I tried doing this and then ran into a fracturing tower problem, and so it ended up breaking. And so back to that, trying to get it put in the bench, because I don't want to go do another barge tug at the moment. And so I think what's going to actually be kind of a good way to do this in the future here is what I'll do is load it into the bench. And then when I'm actually ready to go for an actual delivery to sell it, I can use the I can just pull it out of the bench, and that's going to make it so that I have a nice storage area and store it here, and then whenever I'm ready, I can do that. So let's go ahead and start filling up a tanker load of diesel, and we'll load up a tanker load of jet fuel. And we'll bring in the kite, which is right here. All right, good, that's there. And let me just double check, make sure these have been fixed, because I had baffles in before that were just causing problems. Those are gone. Okay, good. So here's the Pinnacle 18 speed, which definitely with the masses we're talking here, this is like a 250,000 pounds when full. It's definitely nice to have the 18 speed transmission. You know, a lot of people are still kind of wondering why you quote unquote need so many gears. The operational RPMs of a tractor are only about 300. So for a Pinnacle, your operating range is between 1100 and 14. You can go outside of that, but generally that's where you're operating. That's where it's recommended by the manufacturer to operate. And so you only have a 300 RPM range. And if the gears were too long, if the differential between the two gears was too much, it would, for example, when you upshift, you know, for example, let's say we're in first gear, we rev out to 1400. Okay, we're doing that. We're in second gear. We're revved out to 1400. Let me upshift. All right, it doesn't really do it in this case because I'm light, but it's going to drop us down, say, usually down to about 1100. If you go below 1100, you're going to lug and chug and you're going to stall your engine. And so each gear change can't be so great that it causes you to stall your engine or lug it. And so you need to have small gear changes, and because of that, you have a lot of gears. Each gear change has to be small, and then as you get in the higher box, they can actually be, the ranges can be a little bit further apart. But every time you change that gear, you need to remain in operating range. And so, for example, let's say you're downshifting. You slow down to about 1100 RPM. You go to downshift the next gear. If the gears are too far apart, what would happen is it would rev out to, say, 2000. Well, guess what? That's going to damage your engine. You only want it to max rev out to, say, 1600 probably. And so that's why you have so many gears, is to keep it within the rev range. Now, in a car, you can have wider gears because you're not hauling that much weight, and so you really don't need it. It's in applications where you're hauling a lot of weight, and especially when you're changing. For example, you can bobtail in a tractor, which is, tractor again is this power unit in the front. You can bobtail, which means you just are driving with just the tractor, and you have a vehicle that could pull 100,000 pounds of weight. Well, now it's only pulling, say, 20,000 pounds its own weight. Well, you can skip gears. You can you shift a lot quicker because now you're not hauling as much weight. A truck, you need to have all those gears to be able to operate effectively. All right, so here we are. Let's get out to the oil rig. Now, it's probably not processing while we're this far away. I hope it doesn't do something silly like delete the pipe, but that would be diabolical. But we'll get these on site. That will allow me to pump from the diesel and the jet fuel storage and just put it straight into the tractor trailer here. And so see how I squealed my tires? The reason I squealed my tires was, if you look at my tack, notice my tack, it never got up to 1400. I tried shifting too quickly. As you can see, as I build up momentum, less of the engine is required to be pulling the load. And that's because momentum is keeping the load moving. And so I need less and less effort to be able to pull it. Now, see, we're up around 1367. Now I can upshift and I don't squeal my tires. So if you're wondering why you're squealing your tires, it's generally because you're shifting outside of the proper operational range and you're asking something of your tire that it can't do. And you're asking for a speed. Now, in real life, you would stall the engine. In game, you squeal the tire because it will allow the tire to break free before it stalls the engine. So now, see, we're going to wait till we get up around the high 1300s here before we shift into 16th gear. So, you know, if you've been watching me build this 18-speed transmission in some of the videos, when I was bobtail, again, just the tractor by itself, I could easily go right up into 18th gear. Well, you notice with the load, with these trailers are heavy. Now see, when I shift up, the tack goes down. And we have to wait for it to build up. If I tried shifting into 17 now, I would, in real life, stall. In game, I'll squeal my tires. So that is what we're doing there. So we can actually see the rig coming up here. And you see the tack is building up. The momentum is allowing us to mainly keep the vehicle moving, and then we're able to start building more revs in the engine. That's because essentially the load is decreasing as the momentum is taking over the job of hauling it. If we started going uphill, we're getting more load on there, and that's going to cause the tack to go down. As we go uphill and we increase the load because gravity is now acting against us, we would have to downshift. If we get down to 1,000 RPM in this case, we'd have to downshift, or 1,100. We'd want to downshift a gear, or else we're going to get in the stall range. Or we're going to lug. We're not going to have the power. You need to have a high enough RPM, right? Force equals mass times acceleration. The engine is a mass. You need it turning within a certain range of speed, or else you're not going to have the force to be able to actually pull a load, and that's going to cause you to stall. So right now we're pretty much tapped out here. We're holding around 1236. Now it's actually probably more efficient and faster to run in 15 at 16 than running down there. We might, let me check it. We might lose a little speed. We might maintain the same. So actually we're maintaining the same speed, so it's actually more fuel efficient. We actually went up a little there, but definitely more fuel efficient to run in 16. We also just kind of leveled out. As you can see, we actually leveled out just a little bit there. All right, coming up to the rig. At some point, what I want to make is a trailer probably that will have a bunch of hose winches on it. If you look over there, you can see the signals for the train right behind the rig. And so what that will allow us to do is we can put some of this oil on train. We just need a bunch of winches to be able to reach it. I don't know if pipes work. I bet pipes work as an add-on. One thing I could do is actually build a pipeline to that rail, which would be kind of an interesting add-on. All right, let's hope the pipe didn't disappear. All right, you hear me squealing? That's because I downshifted too quickly, and it caused me to get outside of my RPM range, which, you know, in real life, in a manual tractor transmission like this, you would never be able to switch the gears because it's manually synchronized. You have to synchronize it, and you'll never be able to get it synchronized, so you'll just never get it in gear. In game, I can just force it in gear. All right, we'll go down to neutral. I'll just keep it running here. And this time we didn't need infinite fuel to get this truck out because putting the tugboat back in, that's where all our fuel went. It was in the tugboat. So we're going to pump in some jet fuel here. And this will be nice too, that now we will have some surplus diesel in the actual workbench. So there's like 1,600. So I think when we got out of range, it stopped producing, which is normal. Once you get far enough away from stuff, it starts culling the logic, or else, you know, the game would never be able to run. And so things like that, like if you leave your barge while it's emptying, it will actually just stop emptying. You'll see, you know, you can see the money will keep increasing, then you get to a certain distance, it will stop because it essentially stops doing it. All right, the other thing is I want to check these tanks here. All right, we have plenty of volume for the diesel here. Let me just double check, make sure I don't have infinite fuel on. I don't, okay. All right, so still heating this up. All right, we're actually losing oil, which is interesting. Did I accidentally get rid of the rod? I did. So this is going to be a massive pain in the ass. It really is. Every time I get out of range, it's going to cause this to essentially disappear. I have a quick fix for it. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it's going to make that disappear every time I get out of range. So I have to manually make sure the table clamp is off. One thing I could do is It's super annoying. I just have to be cognizant of it and get rid of the table clamp every time that happens, because that's going to cause me problems. So that is pretty frustrating, but whatever. It's a game mechanic. I can get frustrated about it, or I can just, you know, not worry about it. But effectively, the pipe disappeared is what happened, which isn't great. But we're going to have to manually put the pipes. I don't have any pipes in this rig, so let's drain this rig out. We'll do that. We'll drain the rig out. Once everything is fractioned, I will go ahead and off screen, I'll just get all that redone. But definitely, it's easier to heat now. As you can see, we don't have much volume. Waiting for this volume here. We're getting low here, so we only have 1,100 left. Kind of a pain, but whatever, man. It is what it is. It really is. You know, I'm not going to complain about it. So we're probably not even. We'll make it up to the fraction level here. So what I'm going to do is actually shut off the jet fuel pull, and that's, I just want diesel for the rest of it. As you can see, it's going right through. That's because it's going right in here. So it's going in there, as you can see. The reason why the numbers are different is that's reading in liters. This is reading in gallons. That one might actually be broken. I don't know. That one might be reading in liters. But we'll see. So I'm just going to fraction off this last section here, and we'll go put it in. So what happened was, when I got a certain distance away, it tried to cull this stuff to save resources, and it deleted out the pipe. If I had the table clamp, the swivel clamp off, it would have caused the pipe to attach to the drill head, and it probably would have stayed. That's annoying. One thing I could do is a player sensor, but you only have 15 meters. So if I went with outside of 15 meters, it would drop, it would let go of it. So, it is annoying, but I'm not going to let it bother me. It's, I'm going to take a little break from oil. I've been doing a bunch of oil here anyway. I want to move into building some new stuff. I'm going to do some rescues. I've been feeling that. And so, what are we pulling still from this? So once this is all done, fraction, we'll send the truck, we'll take the truck back, we'll put it in the bench. And so this should just keep going up in level. All right, I'll check back with you guys when this is all filled. All right, so this is now filled, as full as it can get filled. Again, still having some issues here that I'm gonna have to work through. That was just losing the pipe. I wanted to fill these all the way up, so I need to get the truck out here, and then I need to spawn the rig. I need to make sure the pipe stays in the hole. Bunch of growing pains with this, but as part of the culling system, it seems. So it is what it is. So I'm not gonna get frustrated by it. But we got at least a little bit of diesel and some jet fuel to stick in the bench, which is nice. Shut the fuel off. Shut the air off. Shut all these buttons off. Not that it's gonna matter. I'm just gonna shut this down later, but shut everything off, and we'll go ahead and bring this back, and we'll put the little bit that we did get, and we'll stick it in the bench. So better than nothing, but get this put in the bench. Eventually, we'll kind of get a good rhythm here where we're not running into these issues, but until then, we'll have a little bit of growing pains with the oil here. All right. So we're on our way. Should be on our way. There we go. Yeah, we want to wring out the tack here before we shift, or we're just going to squeal tires. As you can see, we get very small drops. Again, it's an 18-speed transmission in the low box. I believe it's 8th gear will put us in the high box. So now you see we get a little flutter off 8 because we're going into the high box now. Now we're up around 1400. Now we should be getting some larger drops now as we get in that high box. You see we're starting to drop more. And that's because the gears are what's known as longer. We do not want to shift until this tack gets back up around 1300 there, or else we're just going to spin our tires. Again, in real life, with this much weight in the back, you would never spin your tires unless you were on ice. But that's how the game does it. It breaks traction instead of stalling your engine out, because people would be saying, why is my engine stalling, why is my engine stalling, why is my engine stalling? Well, because you're outside of your rev range. Here we go. See, we get a drop, waiting for it to climb back up before we shift again. You know, I take for granted a lot of people have no clue how to operate a manual transmission, so they don't know when to shift. That's probably why a lot of people want automatic. Well, you know, I think it's a good skill to learn, even if you never use it. All right, we're going 52 miles an hour. You know, the perception of speed's kind of tough in game, especially with these super wide. This is like a 4-lane highway, and you know, it's very flat out here, so it's hard to get any perception of motion. But we're doing 54 miles an hour right now, so let's shift up to 16. Got a little squeal there going to 16, just because I think 16, as you can see, dropped us down to 11 something hundred on the tack. And we're up around 60 miles an hour. So it seems like we're crawling. We're not crawling. It's hard to emulate speed in games. We're going 60 miles an hour here, so. Would have been nice if this went a little bit smoother. It wasn't, not the end of the world. I'm actually gonna save, and then I'm gonna recall this and see if I get the stuff, and if I don't, I'll pump out. I might RP pump out as well. You don't have to pump out. You can just dump this in the workbench and it should take all the liquid. But until then, until it's in the game, I'll either put it in a feature request or not complain about it. Alright, so I'm going to cruise control. I'm just going to... Actually, I don't want to do it that way. That's going to cause me problems here when I want to stop. There we go. Yeah, that would just cause me problems, so I won't bother with trying to do that. See, now my tack is so low, then I'm going to lug. So I need to downshift, get my revs back up around 1400, and then upshift. That's when you know in this vehicle, at the very least, when to shift. Every vehicle has its low shift point and its high shift point. That's how, you know, I would, if you watch like my automatic transmission tutorial, that's how I program it. I take everything and I make it a manual first, and I find where are my shift points. Once I know my shift points, I then program them in so that it just automatically will work the up-down counter. So for example, if I said 1360 is my shift point, it would hold it here at 1300 until it hits 1360. So, you know, let's say it was an automatic transmission. Now it's going to click. It's going to drop down. And it would downshift when, say, it gets below 1,000. So that's all you do for an automatic transmission, is you're just taking the manual shift points and you're automating them. You know, cars are a little bit different, but tractors, they're just using pneumatic, essentially automatic boxes that just work a standard transmission. That way they can pretty much, you know, there may be some different ones, but some of them at least do that. And so it's essentially just having a computerized pneumatic shifter that's doing the shifts for you, but it's a standard gearbox, and that way they can put the gearbox in anything and just either put a linkage to it so you can do it manually, or have the automatic control head do it for you. As we're going downhill here, we should get the assistance of gravity. You should see the tack go up because the load is decreasing. The reason it didn't go up was because we went over that bump and spun the tires a little bit. So see, it's going up, and that's because the load is decreased because gravity's helping us go down. All right, so we'll pull right in here into the hangar. I'll just hook up and let it empty out. It'll take a short period of time to empty out. Take a little screenshot for the thumbnail, but hope you guys enjoyed that. Finally kind of I still haven't accomplished what I wanted, which I wanted to get 2 full trailers into FJ Warner, and I've still yet to do that because we have some other bases, and I would like to be able to ferry some fuel. So ferrying fuel is generally just when you bring extra fuel. So, you know, we might take the full tugboat and, you know, when we go, you know, bring it to beginner base, and then when we get to beginner base, or when we leave beginner base, we'll only take half the fuel back with us. That way we've left some with us. So that's what ferrying fuel is. All right, brakes, set the parking brake, shut that down. Let's jump out. If you ever have this issue, the door gets stuck, just sit back in your seat. It's the way the collisions work. That's all it takes. All right, and so we will go pump out. What is this? This should be jet on the front. Pump in. Pump it in. Pump it in. Make sure this is set correctly. No, so this isn't going to do anything. Pump it out. Okay, it's going now. Just took a second to get going. This should be diesel. Pump out. We didn't get much diesel, unfortunately. Diesel was the main thing I wanted. I could have just... It's a 1-to-1 split between diesel and jet fuel in the fraction tower, so... If you had 1,000 liters of oil, it will put out 1,000 liters of diesel. Or whatever you may be using. Alright, so it's going. The counters are just slow. Alright, so I'm going to just quickly get rid of this fog, and we'll take a screenshot, and I think we'll call it there. And so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Finally getting, you know, some of the bugs worked out of this oil drilling operation, but just take some time, you know. I'm in the camp that I enjoy that the devs don't tell us too much about this stuff. I see a lot of complaints about that. When I was a kid, you didn't really have a lot of instruction for games, and a big part of the fun was figuring out on your own. That was the adventure. It would have been considered ruining the fun if somebody told you how to do everything. And games changed at some point. You know, there's still games where you have to figure it out on your own, but I like this gameplay of having to figure out everything on your own. It's kind of... It engages me. It's interesting to me, but I can certainly get it with people, and that's why I put out tutorials. Is if you don't want to go spend 10 hours researching something, watch a tutorial, and somebody else did that work for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you should play how you want to play to have fun. And so I hope you guys enjoyed that, and hopefully next time we can get this so that it will work a little bit better, and I can actually get a good chunk of resources put in this bench, but. The only issue that we had here was the pipe. What I'll do next time I do this is I'll bring the truck out there. I'll spawn the rig fresh. The truck will already be out there because once I get like a kilometer or so away, it disappears and it ends up deleting the pipe. So I'll do some testing with that, but I have to make sure that I shut off the table connection so that the pipe is free floating. That way it will stay in place. And so that it won't disappear. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.